Welcome back to the Metal Exchange. Justin and Chris back again. The two kings of metal joining the four metal kings as we go back to 1988, covering the sixth Manowar studio album, Kings of Metal. It's kind of surprised we haven't done this one sooner. This is going to be an interesting discussion, to say the least. But before we talk all things Manowar, how are you, my friend?
I thought it was Four Assholes Metal.
Yeah, it may as well be. This is quite the album. I haven't listened to this in a while. I'm glad we're going to talk about this one.
Yeah, it brought back a lot of fun memories and stuff. So I've been looking forward to this one as well. And I didn't want to wait for the 40th anniversary in like 2.5 years. So I thought it was time we went back and talked about this band, and it's interesting because probably my three favorite albums from this band are this, and then the album that followed it, and the album that preceded it, which we've already discussed in long form. And so I feel like this completes the trilogy for me. I look forward to talking about some of their earlier material that I'm not as well versed in. Although I do know the first album quite well because they played all of it. I think the one time I'd seen them live, they were touring the anniversary of Battle Hymns, and so I believe they played the entire thing in its entirety. So I got kind of familiar with that.
I feel like you'd be surprised at how much you know from like Hail to England and stuff. When you actually put it on, you probably know half the album or so.
Yeah, that and Into Glory Ride and Sign of the Hammer are three of the albums that I really could use probably a little more polishing up on. Like just looking at Sign of the Hammer, like Thor obviously is a song that I know really well. But I bet you, yeah, if I played the album, I'd be like, oh yeah, like, you know, because if you remember in like 97 and 98, they released two double disc live albums, and between those two albums, they pretty much covered like the entire song catalog that the band had up to that point. So just from listening to that, I think probably I know more than I think I know. Yeah, I think you might be right. So I'm sure we'll get to those albums at some point in time for sure.
Yeah, those. I'm sure it's just a matter of time, as they say. But before we talk and go into depth on this album, some new stuff that's come out that wanted to mention. A band that we've covered on the podcast, Draconian, has released their new single called Cold Heavens. It is a precursor to the album, which drops on the 8th of May. I'm always looking forward to new music from Draconian. I love these guys. Lisa, their old singer, is back. That was exciting to some people. I know that they were a big fan of her vocals. Just a band that delivers time and time again. So that is just something that's on my radar. The new Monstrosity album is getting rave reviews. It's called Screams from Beneath the Surface. I listened to one of the singles and I was thoroughly impressed. Not usually a fan of straight up death metal, but this was really melodic and really good. So I'm going to be picking up their new album. I want to give that a shot. Like I said, I heard one track. It was phenomenal. So I'll post one of their songs this week. But what I really wanted to talk about more than anything, new music from Jeff Tate off Operation Mindcrime 3. Have you had a chance to listen to to Jeff's single called Power?
No, and it's weird because I feel like everybody's been talking about it, and I just haven't gone out of my way to listen to it. I wanted to hear what you had to say about it, though, because apparently expectations were very low, and it sounds like it easily vaulted the low expectations.
I had no expectations at all. And so I think it was easy to exceed expectations because my expectations were low, but I really liked it. I'm not saying it's my song of the year or anything like that, but if this is representative of what the album is, I think it's going to blow away Operation Mindcrime 2. And I mean, it was really good. Was it perfect? No, but Jeff sounded good. And it was enough of a homage to the original that I felt like they did it justice. And so I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it. And obviously, to your point, I'm not alone. This single was really a surprise. And singles don't necessarily indicate what the rest of the album is going to be like, but I was really not sure what to think going into it, and now I've got some expectations for the album. I think it might be pretty good. So, I make no bones about it. Operation Mindcrime, top 3 album for me of all time. So I have to hear what the new music sounds like. This was much better than I expected.
Has the band given any indication as to how they feel about Jeff Tate basically going out on his own and saying, I'm going to make Operation Mindcrime 3 without any, as far as I know, without any of the other members of Queensryche that were part of 1 and 2, but particularly the first one? Or they were just like, did they just give him the old pat on the back and said, have fun, pal? Like,
I don't know if there was any dialogue at all. I certainly didn't read anything about it. The irony is that Jeff Tate was recently quoted. I guess they had asked him about his thoughts of Todd La Torre, his replacement in Queensryche, and he had nothing but positive things to say, which was kind of nice to see. So I don't know that they're going to be mending fences anytime soon. Queensryche seems very established with their new lineup. But, obviously that there's no rights issues or anything like that, because this album is certainly on its way. So I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, never saw anything positive or negative from the band, though. Okay.
I'm just curious because it seems like, I don't know, like it seems like even just from a legal standpoint, like, I guess maybe if he probably has some sort of claim to the original as being a member of the band at the time. Just find it interesting because my understanding was always that things were not hunky-dory, to say the least, with between him and the rest of the band.
I think that is a fair assessment, but onwards and upwards, I guess. Sometimes money gets in the way of things, but here we are. Curious, before we move on, if there was anything that you heard that was worth noting.
Sure. I saw a lot of people talking about the new Triosphere single, Monsters Ball, which I think people were just so excited to see that Triosphere released anything, because it's been 12 years since their last album was released, The Heart of the Matter. They released 3 albums 4 years apart for each one, and then seemingly kind of disappeared. I know that they made an appearance at Prague Power a few years back and played. I think they were one of the opening bands. But this new track is great. It's a really great mix of I think power and prog. But I love Ida. Her vocals are so unique. I think that they're a much lower register than like you come to expect from female vocals on a metal album, and so I think that kind of really gives it a uniqueness. I just think it's an outstanding track. So if anybody out there hasn't listened to it yet, I believe they're currently with Frontiers. But yeah, the Norwegian band Triosphere is alive and well, and I'm hoping that there will be a full album to follow.
Yeah, I was impressed by it as well. I'm not the biggest fan of the band. There's some tracks that I happen to really enjoy, but I wouldn't say I'm a massive fan. But I thought it was a really good single, and I mean, maybe I'm reading into things because of the 12-year hiatus, but it sounded fresh and inspired. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come.
Yeah, I honestly don't even really remember the last album. It's been so long. It predates the existence of this podcast by a decade at least. So almost a decade. But so yeah, that was exciting. I also finally had a chance to listen to Fabian Ernie's solo album. And most people probably recognize her as the one of the singers from Elvedi, and who was the other band that we saw Prague Power that she's a part of?
Oh goodness, it's
Illumishade.
Yes, that's it.
But I mean, this is kind of it's in that vein, I think, of Elvedi and Illumishade, where it's folky, but I think that it's a little bit more. I thought it was a little bit more chill. It was a really easy thing to listen to while I was getting work done. So there's definitely like some heavy elements to it, but I think in general it's kind of more of a more like atmospheric kind of folk experience. So really look forward to getting back to that. I feel like between that and that Eye of Melian album that was done by Martine from Delane, just two really good kind of like symphonic, atmospheric type albums that are a little bit on the, I think, the mellower side, but also quite enjoyable. So I think that's pretty much it for me. I am looking forward to this. I think we've mentioned it a few times, but we have had a promo copy of an album, I think since late last year, that is finally going to be released next week, and that's Iron Savior's Awesome Anthems of the Galaxy. It's going to be 17 covers of all songs from the 80s. Some of my favorite 80s songs, I'll mention some of them. All I Need Is a Miracle from Mike and the Mechanics, really great song. Call Me from Blondie. Forever Young from Alphaville. I think the single for that has already made its way out. They did I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight by Cutting Crew. She's Like the Wind, which was a Patrick Swayze song from the Dirty Dancing soundtrack. Separate Ways by Journey, Against All Odds by Phil Collins. Just a lot of good stuff. I think our friend Steve Scott is going to enjoy this album quite a bit as somebody who performs in a band that plays, throwback songs and stuff like that. But, Pet Shop Boys are on here, cover from them, cover from, the Eurythmics, like just really hitting all those 80s anthems. And so Awesome Anthems of the Galaxy, March 27th on Perception record. I'm sure we'll be mentioning it again. I've actually, even though we've had it for months, I've actually been kind of holding off on listening to the whole thing until it actually comes out. But these singles that have been released so far have been a real blast, particularly I really like the Aha Take On Me cover. I know Vision Divine did a cover of that years ago on their second album, but they did that, and Relax by Frankie Goes to Hollywood and Fame by Irene Cara. I think have been the singles that have been released up till now. Looking forward to that. And you had mentioned Sierra has an album, Requiem for a Pipe Dream. I'm also looking forward to that as well. I'm not entirely sure when that one comes out. I think a little bit, was it May? I'll look it up real quick. But
yeah, take a look. I don't recall, but I feel like it's a little bit of ways. June 5th. You were close.
Yeah, and that was another one we got well in advance. So those are just two that I'm looking forward to. But yeah, it's been kind of quiet as for new stuff, at least on my end. I'll have to look and see what else is coming out this week and next week. Yeah, I see that Axel Rudy Pell has a new album coming out. I guess by the time this episode drops, it will have already come out. That's Axel Rudy Pell is one of those artists where there's so many albums that I just never knew where to start, so I just never started.
It's daunting, but there's really no bad place to start. I don't know that he's got any albums that are 10s out of 10s, but I don't know that there's many bad ones either. It's almost like just put one on and I think you'll enjoy it. But
I know Jeff Scott Soto sang on at least a couple of them back at some point.
I'm going to definitely have to pick one of his albums to do in the not so distant future, just because I think you'd enjoy it. I think that would be something you actually really, really like and almost want to go back to, if you had the chance or whatnot. So
yeah, I think I listened to the last album that his band came out with, and I thought it was good, but I don't know that I remember it all that well, but I'm pretty sure I listened to it. So it looks like Exodus has a new album as well. Gyria, which I think is a band that you enjoy.
Yeah, I don't know how to say it, but I love them.
Yeah, I've heard Tony Gyria, former road agent for WWE. So I assume you'll have stuff to say about those albums come next week. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to both of them. I think there's lots of good material, and I've heard some good things about each one, so that should be fun. As we shift gears here, no pun intended. I haven't even started with Wheels of Fire. We'll talk about that obviously, but for me, when I go back to Kings of Metal, and for the record, November 18th, 1988, it was Manowar's 6th studio album on Atlantic Records. Eric Adams, vocals, Ross the Boss on guitars, Joey DeMaio on bass, and Scott Columbus on drums. And I don't think this was the first Manowar album I got. I think I got Triumph of Steel first, but I loved that album at the time, and I remember quickly grabbing Fighting the World and Kings of Metal in short succession because it was one of those albums that was like readily available. And I don't know if it was the Atlantic Records thing or whatnot, but you could go to a local record store in 1998 and find it even a decade after its release. Do you recall when you got this in the pantheon of your Manowar collection?
I remember seeing it, Manowar albums in the store, and they were always right near the Malmsteen albums. So those are always metal albums that you could find in, domestic record stores here in the U.S. I believe I had Triumph of Steel was definitely it was not only my first Manowar album, it was one of the first metal albums I ever bought. It might have actually even been the second metal album I ever bought after Sabotage's Handful of Rain. I believe Louder Than Hell was the next one that I got, which came out in 96. And that's an album I'd like to talk about at some point as well. Only 2 albums the band released in the 90s. But I do remember, I used to ask Pat if, he recommended any albums that I didn't have from bands that I was already aware of. And I remember him saying clearly, if you like Manowar, you have to get Kings of Metal. I think at the time he said this was their best album, and that would have been, at that point, the album would have probably been out about 7 or 9 or 10 years. At that point. So I believe I think I put it on a Christmas list or a birthday list or something. And I think that's how I got it, if memory serves. But I remember just popping it in and being like, oh yeah, like every song is, almost every single song, maybe every single song on this album is a Manowar classic. It's, I don't know if I just created that in my own head from years of listening to it, but I mean, I feel like, these are all like, mainstays in the Manowar set lists over the years. And I, whenever I go back and listen to it, I can't help but think, I think this might just be the best Manowar album of all time.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. Forget about your opinion now, having the benefit of hindsight and listening to the album a bunch over the last week. But if I would have asked you this question before this week, would you have said it was your favorite Manowar album? Or even back in 1999, would you have said this is your favorite? Or was it something that you came to appreciate more this week or later on?
No, I don't think my opinions really changed much. I just think this is one of those albums that you just go back to, and I think it always just hits that same way. Like it doesn't disappoint. It's just an absolute classic, honestly. If you had asked me in 1999, I think it would have been, I don't know, like I had such a love for Triumph of Steel because it was like, the second metal album I ever bought. And so I listened to the shit out of that record. Like I remember just having my Discman on road trips and just listening. I have a very distinct memory of listening to Achilles' Agony and Ecstasy, like in the backseat of my car, my parents' car, while they were driving me to visit colleges, I think, if I remember correctly. Like I just, and to me, like those 20 minutes just flew by. So definitely check out our review of that album in the archives, because that's an all-time classic. I had to pull out the spreadsheet. I was just curious what we gave, or what we rated the other two albums we did, Fighting the World, which was our 6th episode ever in November of 2020.
Wow.
I gave a 7.5. You gave a 7. Then we did Triumph of Steel in February of 2023. I gave that one an 8, and you gave that a 7.5. So we're building here. I have a feeling we're both going to outrank both of our first two Manowar outings. At least I think you will. I know I am. But I think those. If I took my favorite songs from those 3 albums, those 2 and this one we're going to talk about today, like that's kind of my Manowar greatest hits album right there. There's a few tracks I really enjoy from Louder Than Hell, and a few that I know from pre-Fighting the World. But honestly, like these 3, like when you talk about band, like great band trilogies, Episode Visions, Destiny, or Master of the Rings, Time of the Oath, Better Than Raw. And like, I mean, God, I'm thinking about it, like you could throw a Fourth Dimension and The Dark Ride on those 2 lists, and those 4 albums in a row were sick. But, Gamma Ray with Land of the Free and Somewhere Out in Space and Power Plant, like, I put like these 3 Manowar albums as a trilogy up there as one of the great metal trilogies. I'll turn over to you. I have a question. I want to ask you like your memories of getting this album, but I also want to know do you believe, and I've heard this talked about before, but do you feel as though Manowar kind of predated Halloween as far as power metal goes? Like, is this a power metal band? Like before power metal was really defined? American
power metal was kind of, and I still think is, a genre in and of itself. European power metal has a definite flair to it. I don't know that I would consider American power metal the same. And so when you think of the Blind Guardians and Halloweens of the world, I don't think this is in that vein. It doesn't sound like it to me. But even when I think of other American power metal bands, I don't think any of them really sound like the European style. So maybe it's a genre in and of itself. I will say I don't have clear memories of when I got it, but I remember getting it in and around 1998, the beginning of or middle of 1998, around the same time as you did. But I always liked the album. I always loved the album, and I think it was always my favorite album, at least for the last 20 or 25 years. So for a long time, I've thought this was their best. But what I didn't realize, and this was almost shocking to me, it's kind of a weird album, the way it's constructed. And I say that because there's only 10 tracks, and there's 5 or 6 classic best of Manowar tunes. And then there's some really weird shit on here. And so I love it, but it's not your typical album with one ballad, 1 or 2 mid-paced tracks, and a bunch of bangers, right? This is weird, especially the way it's constructed. So I just wanted to make mention of that because I don't know that I ever appreciated just how odd some of this is. But
I have 5 words for you, and it's grandfather. Tell me a story.
Exactly. I mean, and that's not the only one that I'm going to highlight. But let's get into it, because for my money, the best Manowar opening tune on any album is Wheels of Fire. You hear that motorcycle, and it gives way to the ultimate banger of a tune. It is fast. It is in your face. It's the perfect opener. And for a while, I think it was probably my favorite Manowar tune. Just a killer riff, amazing vocal effects as Eric Adams is singing at you from every angle, especially if you have on headphones. Catchy verses, catchy chorus. But I think the highlight here is that drum beat. That drum beat, especially during the chorus, that gallop is outstanding, and it just really sets the tone for the entire thing. And I think the bridge is electric too. This was an easy Song of the Week candidate, although I'm going to go in a different direction.
I would say of the 10 songs on this album, I might have considered at least 7 of them.
Wow.
To be my Song of the Week. Maybe 6. 6 or 7 for sure. But yeah, and this is certainly one of them. I mean, this was the Manowar had the same lineup from their second album until Kings of Metal, and after this, Ross the Boss would leave, and I think he did he ever come back, or am I thinking of? I know there's members that have left and come back, but Scott Columbus, who has since passed away, was on drums on this one, and this construction of the band, these 4 guys, to me, is like that like just the classic. We always talk about the classic lineups. I feel like this is the classic Manowar lineup. I think this is just the most memorable guys on each instrument. Where to start? Like the drumming from Scott Columbus is incredible, like you said. Joey's bass always just carries the day. Eric Adams is one of the most underrated metal vocalists of all time, in my opinion, and I feel like
you say Mayers, I would have agreed with you, but yes, no,
yeah. Just like a shame he never really got, like, I would have killed to hear him on an Avantasia or an Arion just doing something that wasn't Manowar, just to hear what he would sound like, because I think of him doing Phantom of the Opera with Maria from Holy Hell, and that duet was so incredible.
Arguably one of the underrated vocalists in the genre.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'll say this. Not to hijack your recitation of your thoughts on this one, but the reality is, even as early as or as late as a year or two ago, when I saw them live in a huge theater in New York City, he can still do it, man. He's got to be pushed. He's got to be close to 70 or something like that. The guy's got some set of pipes, and you don't really think of him as one of the elite metal singers when he's
73 years old.
Wow. I'm telling you, the guy still got it. And it was not all like sound effects, and he wasn't like, this was not the Wasp thing where they were piping in vocals and it was clear that that's what you heard. He's I think of that song Power that's on Louder Than Hell, I think, and that's he's got the power. He's got an amazing set of pipes.
Yeah, I wonder if that had something to do with just the lack of touring that Manowar has done over the years, and just keeps the voice nice and fresh, and you don't get you don't burn out your vocal cords like some of the singers did early on in their career, and now they're like 10, 15 years younger than Eric, and can't hold a candle to the guy. And the only other guy I didn't mention, Ross the Boss, his guitars are so iconic, I feel like, with this band. It's just that they have a sound, and bad news from his camp recently that he was diagnosed with ALS, which was a bummer to hear. But all that to say that like this all comes together, and this is like one of the most like Manowar songs of all time. It just has everything, just those high soaring vocals, wild guitar solos, just like that unbelievable drum beat. Outstanding song, and for this to be neither of our songs of the week really speaks to the quality on the rest of this album. But I agree with you. This is just an absolute killer way to open up an album.
The way they open it up, I think they were smart not to follow it up with another absolute banger, because it would have gotten lost in the shuffle. They had to kind of change the pace with the second track. And so when they play the title track, it's also another classic. They still play it live, but it's much slower paced. Listen, the verses are over the top and ridiculous, but it's catchy. It's another earworm of a tune. And despite the absurd lyrics, if you can get over the lyrics, the guitar solo is eclectic and enjoyable. The vocals towards the end, especially the last 30 seconds, are just like next level Eric Adams vocals. I don't know how the guy pulls it off. There's something about this tune that has this anthemic quality of it, and it gives the perfect 1-2 punch to start the album.
This is just the perfect Manowar anthem. You use the word anthemic, and it's a perfect word. Like, it's just like, I just picture, I could not imagine seeing this band live and not hearing them sing this song. This is the Manowar, and this is a band that has a lot of theme songs, don't get me wrong, but this is I think the Manowar theme song. I mean, lyrics, yeah, that's going to be probably questionable at best on a lot of these tracks. So we'll just, we'll gloss over that for the time being. But yeah, like you said, like they and by slow it down, I just mean that they went from face meltingly fast to a mid-tempo power metal tune. But, everything about it, like, catchy chorus and again, everything that made the first track great instrumentation wise is still here. It's just not as wild. And I think that's good. And the next song being kind of a power ballad, I think with the first three tracks, they really show that they can do, I've always thought Manowar is a fantastic power ballad band. They have a lot of really good songs. We talked about Master of the Wind on Triumph of Steel. Courage is one that I love from Louder Than Hell. So they've shown it in the first three songs, and we'll get to Heart of Steel next, but like that they can do fast, they can do mid tempo, and they can do power ballads, and all three songs are just classic Manowar songs, outstanding, like just classic metal anthems, all three of them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I want to, before we talk about Heart of Steel, was it too early to go to a ballad with the third track? That's now we're starting to get into what I would call the odd part of the album in terms of construction. Sure. You have these two classic tracks, and normally, a lot of times the fourth track will be a ballad. Here, just to kind of get into it, Heart of Steel, Sting of the Bumblebee, Crown in the Ring, ballad, instrumental ballad. In the front half of the album, it's a weird way to end side A. Let me tell you that. I mean, it's just kind of weird. But that being said, Heart of Steel is really good. It's a piano-laden tune, which adds that extra dynamic for the band, which you didn't hear a ton on a lot of these albums. But this was a really good piano-laden ballad, kind of showing off Adams' range, a little different from the first two tracks, and really just contrast to those first two tunes. You can hear the chorus once and you'll never forget it. That's how epic this chorus is. Very dramatic song, really nice crescendo, especially as the band joins in about halfway through. I think I enjoyed this tune more than I ever did this week. I don't know that I ever gave this song a lot of credit. It's a great ballad.
Probably the most I ever enjoyed this song was watching Caleb dance with his mother at his wedding to this song. If you've never seen a mother-son dance at a wedding quite like this, and it was perfect if you know Caleb and you knew his mom, Pat. Caleb still exists. Pat has since passed, and she was awesome. And I thought it was the craziest thing that I would be talking to one of my friend's moms about heavy metal. And she literally went with me the first time I saw Manowar. She was there, and she was the one who broke it to us that this song was on the set list, crossed off, and we were all so bummed out about that. So I've still never heard this song performed live, but this is one of the, to me, just one of the best heavy metal power ballads of all time. There's something so uplifting about it, even though it's a really emotional song. And again, the lyrics are, a little bit on the cheesy side, but I think that the message is a really good one. And I absolutely adore this song, and it's one of those, like I mentioned last week, that one of those bust your lighters out and sway back and forth and stuff. Seeing this band live in the 80s must have been such a trip. Well,
I'll tell you something about this song. They played this song when I saw them headline with Rhapsody opening in 2005 at BB King's, and they played this song. And I remember being like, oh my, I just didn't think they were going to play it, right? It was just not the biggest venue. It was a little club in Times Square, and they played it, and it was amazing. That is I had people offering me hundreds of dollars outside of the show for my ticket because it had sold out so fast. It was such a small room. And to see Rhapsody for the first time, that was one of my favorite shows of all time. To say nothing of the fact that when I saw them on Long Island with Immortal opening, that is a whole nother story in and of itself.
If I was there, I don't know how much money it would have taken to wrest that ticket out of my hand. I just because that would have been my first time seeing both bands had I been there, and I just there's no way. I think did Holy Hell open too at that
Yes.
show? Yeah,
That's right.
That's a sick lineup. Holy Hell is one of the I think super underrated American power metal bands that have had Joe Stump on guitar and who is our friend on drums that we talked to, who also played in Holy Hell. Why am I forgetting his name? The American drummer that we interviewed. Who was with Ark.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought for a second I didn't know what you were talking about. Johnny Macaluso.
Yeah, he was in Holy Hell. I think for a time, like it was like a embarrassment of riches when it came to like quality band members. And Maria Brian, I believe was her last name. She was such a phenomenal vocalist. I wish they were still around. They were such a underrated band. I actually saw, I think the Power Symphonic Facebook group mentioned them recently, and it was kind of cool. I was glad to hear they hadn't been forgotten. So yeah, I would have been very excited for that. I think if somebody had like offered me like $1,000 in cash, I don't know that I would have taken it. But
wow.
To your point about the song order, I agree it's weird, but for some reason, I don't know if it's just, nostalgia or how I remember it, but I don't really have too much of an issue with it. I think that there's just, like you said, there's just some like what feels like kind of random or unfitting tracks like throughout. And so a band like Manowar, to me, there's no way they're not finishing this album on a song that's not Blood of the Kings. Like they started with a song that was meant to be a starter, and they ended with a song that was meant to be an ender. Like they're not.
It's bookended by the perfect tracks. It's just a little weird in the middle, but
yeah. I don't know that I would go out of my way to change it. It's funny too because earlier today I was looking at some of those reordered track lists that we've done. While doing the podcast over the years, and I don't know that I necessarily changed this one. Moving on to Sting of the Bumblebee, which I think was like the first song that really grabbed my attention, like the very first time I heard the album, just because it was the only song that I actually recognized at the time. It is a take on Flight of the Bumblebee, which was a Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov classical tune that Joey DeMaio converted into an epic heavy metal bass solo in so many words. I used to not really care for this song, and now I feel like it actually makes complete sense that it's on this album.
Yeah, it's an interesting instrumental. I mean, it's the tune, and you really just give Joey DeMaio a chance to shine because he is all over this thing. And I also thought it was cool that they play it live from time to time, which was just a nice touch. The drums really complement the bass very well, but obviously Joey DeMaio steals the show on this. Kind of a transitionary track, almost reminds me of like what Hall of the Mountain King, when they play Hall of the Mountain King, and then you get to just kind of a transitional tune, which leads into Crown in the Ring, Lament of the Kings, which is one of the most interesting tracks because here it is again, almost like another ballad in many respects. That organ at the beginning reminds me of like an RPG or that I'm going to church or something like that. The track itself, really cool vocal solo with orchestration. It would be the kind of the way I describe it. Phenomenal vocals, same vein as Heart of Steel, which I think I prefer of the two songs. Not that this is bad. It's just to have two songs with a somewhat similar cadence back to back, or almost back to back here. It's kind of interesting, but definitely has an epic feel. And I think the backing vocals and the bells provide like a necessary layering to this tune. It just kind of puts it over the top. Good song for sure.
I used to not really think much of this song either, because I always thought that it felt kind of, I don't know, like masturbatory. I don't know, like I don't know what it was, but like it's in retrospect, I absolutely love this song. Agreed, like the organ is very like funeral dirge-esque. I was like almost thinking like, I hope they play this song when I die at my funeral. It just carry me out to this song, and everybody just with the Manowar hand, the hand signals up in the air, and
hold the sign of the hammer high as you get walked out.
Please know that I had a very metal life, but when it gets to the chorus, it's just like, it's like the most epic thing ever. It's just like, and Eric Adams sings with such conviction that like you are convinced that whatever the hell he's singing about, like I'm on board, like I'm going to war, whatever it is that we're doing here, we're going to a funeral, we're going to war, we're going somewhere. Just it has this incredible choir, just a really, really cool song. It's weird. I don't know that I would call it like a ballad, because it's almost like there's probably a better word for it, because yes, it's slow, and yes, it's emotional, and yes, it has like all this, like organs sound or whatever, but there's something more like anthemic about it than ballady, I guess. And it's almost like this like kind of almost call to war type thing. I don't know, but it is just an epic tune that I used to probably skip most of the time. And now I'm like, man, this album is incomplete without this just right in the middle, tying together the two sides. I don't know. It's just really cool. I think maybe in retrospect, it could have been the last song, just because it doesn't really feel like a full track, and it has kind of an outro kind of vibe to it. But
to that point, on the record in 1988, it closes out side A. So it does, if you don't want to listen to, if you don't have time to listen to both sides of the album, you get that closure from this tune. So I think,
or if you just don't want to get up and flip the record over.
Well, that's because we're spoiled now. But fair point. I'm glad that you like it more than you used to. And then, we go ahead to side B, and we get to some, again, if side A was interesting enough, side B starts off with Kingdom Come. This was never my favorite song. I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just that there's better material from the band. I think the verses are okay. You're almost hoping it kind of kicks into second gear. I don't know that it really does so much. I like the guitar noodling throughout. I think the chorus is slightly pedestrian, not terrible contrast between the verses and the chorus. And it's building to something big, but ironically, the payoff comes in the form of like the extended bridge, at least in my opinion. And that vocal note that Adams hits is really probably the highlight of the tune at the end of that bridge. But good song. I wouldn't say it's a great Manowar song.
Yeah, you're wrong. Song of the week for me.
Really?
Oh my God.
What about it?
Oh, it's so, like, I know we're probably going to, outnumber any time we've used the word epic in an episode, but I mean, this is another just epic anthem type song.
Wow. I'm shocked.
There's, I think that I'm trying to figure out how to put this into words, but like, to me, I'm at a loss here. I mean, like, you know what? Let's listen to it. I'll try to come up with something to say, and then we'll come back. All I know is it's my song of the week. I didn't prepare anything beyond that. So let's give it a listen, and I'll come back and hopefully, old Marble Mouth will have something useful to say.
See the white lights, the light within.
Well, it's obvious we've got two divergent opinions on this one. I'll give you another crack at it, not to be confused with Cracker Jack clothes, but explain to me why you think that this is your song. Well, not think. Why is it your song of the week?
I'm pretty sure it is, as we've already heard it. You know, in the way that like Heart of Steel is like such an epic kind of anthem type of song, I feel like this is similar. It's also mid-tempo. It just doesn't have that kind of like power ballad kind of vibe to it. It's more of like, it has kind of almost like a celebratory kind of vibe to it. I think that the guitar solo also just like adds, I think, like this really powerful gravitas to the song. I don't know that I ever thought like anything like a lot about this song. I just know I've known that I've always liked it, but as I listened to this album this week, and there's so many songs that, like I said, like Wheels of Fire, Kings of Metal, Heart of Steel, like Hail and Kill, Blood of the Kings, even Crown and the Ring, like these are all like really outstanding tunes. But I don't know, something about this one, maybe you know our listeners can help me out on this one. I don't know, there's just something so epic, like it's just such a great anthem, and I wish there weren't so many epic anthems on this album, so it doesn't sound like I'm repeating myself, but I just think that this is just another one of them. And like you said, like, you know, Eric has that like crazy, like high, you know, note at the end that he kind of like, it's not a note, it's several notes, but like his voice is just takes over the end of the song. I don't know, Manowar they could take like a mid-tempo song and just turn it into something that just makes you believe in how ridiculous this band can be at times.
Yeah, it's almost like the person that believes their gimmick so much and plays it so well that you buy into it just because of how well they're doing it.
They're the Danhausen of the heavy metal world.
Exactly. And speaking of gimmick tunes, the U.S. was graced with an extra track on this album. It is a track that, as we've done 312 episodes. We've probably covered well over 250 albums, bonus episodes, thousands of tracks, thousands when you think about it. I can assure you that we've never covered anything like this next one. Manowar treated the U.S. fans to an additional track called Pleasure Slave. If you've never heard it, please stop listening to the podcast. Go put on, for the next 5 minutes and 37 seconds, Manowar's Pleasure Slave. Come on back. I don't know what to say about this song. This is the most unbelievable, absurd, ridiculous, over-the-top cacophony of sounds that I've ever heard in my entire life. If this had come out in 2025, this band would have been canceled and they would have been erased from the memory books. But because it came out in 1988 and nobody remembers them, they're here to tell the tale. Chris, do the honors. Now I'm going to fuck you because I'm turning it over to you. Do the honors and explain what Pleasure Slave is.
I'm gonna have an easier time with this than I did with my song of the week because this is so on the nose. It's really not hard to describe, but it's really just what it sounds like. It's just about a guy with a harem of women. Like the song starts out with sex moaning. Like, you know, it puts More Human Than Human by White Zombie to shame with the moaning going on. I never liked this song just because I felt like, beyond the over the top nature of the lyrical content, I just never thought it was a very good song either. It's one of those like kind of drony, like, you know, it's almost like, well, the lyrical content's ridiculous enough. We don't really need to make the song that good. And so, It's a little bit better, I think, now that I listen to it, and I think that the camp value makes it funny, although I do question how much the band actually believed that this song was like a legitimate like answer to life at the time that it was written. But I mean, you can't listen to it and think that at least there's got to be something in the back of your head saying there's no way anyone wrote this song in any sort of serious fashion. And so to that point, this always brings me back to something that I thought was absolutely brilliant. And this was years ago. Nina from A Sound of Thunder, who is speaking of American power metal bands, they're from the DC area, and she headed up a cover band called Manowar, which is a female version of Manowar, and they took this song and flipped it on its head and changed it to, instead of "Woman Be My Slave," changed it to "Man Be My Slave." And I think that makes this song like less offensive to me, because like they took it, flipped it on its head, and said, "All right, we'll do it our way," and it was awesome. And then they actually ended up doing a studio version, and they got their Kickstarter backers from Sound of Thunder, the men, to do all the moaning at the beginning of the song to really turn it over. And it's absolutely just brilliant. And I reached out to Nina and just wanted to get her comments on that, because I can't think of the song and not think of her. And she said, honestly, we were Manowar fans and we wanted to do a cover. Pleasure Slave was the silliest song in their repertoire, so we figured switching the genders would be fun. The best part was recording all the men moaning in the beginning. We did it with the Thunder Choir, a group of Kickstarter backers who record in a studio for all our gang vocals. We couldn't stop laughing. And then apparently they got like cease and desisted because their logo looked too much like Manowar's logo. And so I think that they just went ahead and put the track on YouTube under A Sound of Thunder's banner. But we'll post it later on in the week. It's absolutely worth listening to. Now that you've stopped the podcast and listened to the original version, you should go and listen to this version too. And then I think it just equals everything out. And that way everyone is offended, and therefore no one is offended.
Let me say something. I don't get embarrassed by my music. I like what I like, and you can either take it or leave it.
I'm guessing your wife and children didn't listen to this song with you.
Let me tell you something. I don't skip tracks. I'm not here to this. I enjoy what I enjoy. There's no chance in hell I would ever listen to this song with anybody in my car. There's just no chance. You can't listen to this. It is just crazy. And not only are the sounds crazy, but the lyrics are absolutely ridiculous. It is wildly repetitive and totally cringeworthy. I think the guitar solo is pretty good, except the moans in the back just take it away. This is a wild, wild song where the ending goes completely off the rails, and I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I'm not going to lie. There's something endearing about it in a really weird way. And I guess if you accept it as comedy relief or something like that, you can really almost appreciate the what they were trying to do here. I don't know, but I don't hate it.
I laughed out loud earlier this week when I heard just that line, "Remove your garments." I was like, right. they use the word garments. I was dying. It's just, and to be fair, again, Eric Adams with just a epic, long note at the end there. I wonder if there's some people that look at this album and don't really count that song because it wasn't on their copy, or it wasn't even on the cassette or vinyl release of the album in the States. You literally just had to be in the US and buy the CD, which not everybody was doing in 1988. Not everyone was on the CD train yet. So there might have been people that just weren't even aware of it, but man, it's when I think of those old day bonus tracks on those old records, like Thorazine Shuffle on the Gutter Ballet Sabotage record, and thinking maybe bonus tracks aren't the greatest thing in the world if you're going to put a song that wasn't good enough to make it onto the album in the first place. Although I did listen to a B-side by another band we're going to talk about soon, earlier today, and I was like, how did this not make the album? What an outstanding tune. Hang tight. We'll get to that in a few weeks. But anyway, it's a very funny and weird. I almost feel like it should have been placed before Kingdom Come, so it was just like kind of a weird middle, throw it in the middle. But all right, yeah, sure. I'm not going to let it affect my score of this album one way or the other. I'll just say that.
Listen, they were smart because after that song was the ultimate power palate cleanser in Hail and Kill. Maybe the best Manowar song of all time. I think it's worth throwing it into the mix. I've adored this song more and more as I've gotten older. The epic intro used to be my cell phone ring. I just think the way this song starts is phenomenal. And then that first verse is really like a call to arms. May your sword stay wet. What can you say about some of the lyrics? It is something else, but the lyrics aside, the way that Eric Adams holds some of the notes, especially in the early parts of this song, he does it live and he just holds it for like 30 seconds. It is incredible. And then about a minute and a half into Hail and Kill, the song takes off like a rocket ship. The verses are outstanding. The chorus is like repetitive and repeats the title, but this is one of the few times where it actually works. So many bands do this and it drives me nuts, but this is one of the few times we're just repeating the chorus over and over. It's fine. It's great. This is a song that gets you pumped like no other, and I am there for it. I love it, and it's my song of the week. So let's give a listen to Hail and Kill. That was Hail and Kill, an absolute Manowar classic. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this epic tune.
Oh, if this doesn't get you pumped up, I don't know what will. Like, this is just I think that this would have been a great song, even if the first minute and a half or so weren't part of it. But I feel like the first minute and a half put it over the top. I mean, there's like acoustic guitar and like it's really just this this like moment to really appreciate Eric Adams' awesome vocals, and it really is just like this song is a call to arms, man. It's literally what the song is about, is like going into battle, and only when your father is a wolf will you be ready to go into battle, and it's everything you said is right on. It was definitely this, along with the final track, were definitely song of the week contenders for me as well. It's just another all-time metal anthem on an album with several of them.
So after you have this iconic epic tune, what better way to follow it up than with the Warrior's Prayer, Manowar D&D Story Hour? I mean, you just can't make it up. And this is what I'm talking about, the weird quirkiness of this album. The Warrior's Prayer is a spoken word track with sound effects, and it's kind of cool, but on an album with two ballads and an instrumental, kind of an odd choice. Not that the ballads are bad, not that the instrumental track is bad, but in reality, when you put aside the two ballads, the instrumental, and this, story time with Manowar track, there's really only 6 bangers on this thing, and one of them is a bonus track, and the other one is Kingdom Come, which again is not my favorite. But the irony is when you put all that aside, the album is still great. It's just a weird album, but it's great. Your thoughts on the Warrior's Prayer, which is, I've never heard anything like this.
It's probably because you weren't listening to the radio in the 1950s.
Well, I mean, okay, I haven't heard any. I didn't hear anybody. I didn't hear this on a Judas Priest album. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, this really feels like one of those like radio drama type things,
Yeah.
and I have to believe
It's well done for what it is.
Yeah, for what it is. I know that in Japan, at least I've seen with video game, albums that typically not soundtracks, but like where they actually do like, covers with real instruments and stuff like that. There's a Zelda album where there's like a 12-minute drama being acted out. The whole thing's in Japanese, so I don't understand a word they're saying. But this to me, I think, is probably what it is. I'm glad you mentioned kind of D&D because it does have that kind of vibe to it. But it really is just like what it sounds like. It's like this grandfather telling his grandson a story like before bed, but it's like this, the story of like warfare. I don't know that it's necessarily, appropriate to tell a child before they go to bed of all times. The kid
sounds totally into it. The kid is ready to get on a horse and go to battle himself at the end.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I feel like Manowar is just the kind of band that can get away with something like this. And I've probably listened to this track more times this week than I have in my entire life, because this was always something I would skip for no other reason than the fact that it's not a song. Like, it's just, it's just this weird, like, let's tell a story at the end of this album. And the even weirder thing is that they play this live. And by play it, I mean they just press play and then they go and do whatever. I don't know if anybody in Manowar smokes, but it's a perfect opportunity to go take a smoke break or drink a beer or whatever, or a Gatorade. I don't know what they do, but like it's odd. It's an oddball kind of track, but if you are a fan of Manowar and you know what Manowar does, it makes complete sense that it's on this album.
Unbelievable, but. Yeah, you got to just hear it to believe it.
And to be honest with you, like him, the grandfather, like exclaiming they were the Metal Kings and then it going directly into Blood of the Kings is really like kind of perfect.
Oh, it is. It is. And to your point from earlier, Blood of the Kings is the perfect bookend to this album. The longest track, and it starts off with this bombastic guitar, drums, solos, really interesting stuff. Really great start. The verses, they pull a Megadeth. They kind of start referencing album titles from the past and song titles from the past. I love the vocals. I love the backing vocals. I think they do a really nice job. One of the most powerful choruses on the album. And the word is just epic. I mean, there's nothing else you can say. They even go around the world and start mentioning other countries just to get the cheap pops like Mick Foley used to do. Extended guitar solo was really good, and I like how it kind of slows down at the end before the big finish. Just an over-the-top way to go out, but it works perfectly. Great song.
I feel for Luxembourg, who did not get a shout-out on
Too
this
many
one.
syllables, I think.
They covered all the great, the big countries in Europe and skipped, a couple of the smaller ones, but... oh my God, this is another just one of those songs where it's just another complete anthem. It's another one of those songs you could say like this could be Manowar's theme song. Another one. That little like just that little bass solo that Joey does right at the beginning of the song to like start things up. I mean, this was really like a really great song to not just end the album, but it kind of ends this classic lineup of Manowar, because Scott Columbus, while he would come back for Louder Than Hell, I think Rhino came in and replaced him for Triumph of Steel. Not Rhino from ECW fame, but a different guy.
Different Rhino.
but like I mentioned before, Ross the Boss left, and so like this was kind of like the end of that run of those four guys. And what a way to end it. Like every great thing we've had to say about this album up to this point is kind of all rolled into one with this bombastic. I'll steal your word. That last minute is just like you could picture a concert just ending that way, like just where they just drag out every last note. It's an outstanding last track, and I think that, like, I don't know, it's always been one of my favorite tracks from this album, one of my favorite tracks from this band. There is a lot of just all-timer tracks on this album for me anyway. I would say 6. I would say 6 songs on this album for me. Wheels of Fire, Kings of Metal, Heart of Steel, Kingdom Come, Hail and Kill, and Blood of the Kings. 6 of the greatest Manowar songs of all time for me. Just outstanding metal tunes. And if you can get past the lyrics and some of the silliness of it all and just kind of embrace what this meant at the time, which was just kind of like this hyper masculine, like, whatever, like I don't think that it needs to be scrutinized that deeply, all these years later. But just a really great album, really great last song. I was excited. I've been excited to talk about this for a while now. And so I'm glad we finally got to it. Curious, your score. I have to believe you're going to rate this one higher than the previous two, like I mentioned earlier, but feel free to prove me right or wrong.
This is my go-to album when I want to listen to this band. I don't listen to them a ton, but when I do, I find myself going back to this album. It's still my favorite. And despite my criticism of the structure and just the weirdness of it, it's great. It's great. It's great. It's great. And for all its quirkiness, it's great. So 8.5 for me. Really solid album. I wouldn't put it in the 9 category, but my favorite Manowar album, and to your point, many, many classics that I still go back to and listen with tremendous fondness.
Yeah, I feel like the kind of like weird tracks that like Sting of the Bumblebee and Pleasure Slave and Warrior's Prayer, while I don't feel like this album is the same without them, for me it kind of drags it down a little bit. I mean, I'm still giving this one a high score. I'm giving it an 8.875, just shy of a 9. I just think that the quality of the 6 songs I mentioned earlier, throw in like Crown in the Ring, which I think is a real classic live Manowar tune. And Sting of the Bumblebee, it doesn't overstay its welcome at under 3 minutes. It's just a really great album. I would argue it's, my favorite Manowar album as well. I look forward to talking about some other stuff from the band. Loudwire ranked this the 13th best power metal album of all time, which I think is deserving. And the band re-recorded the whole thing in 2014 with their current lineup called Kings of Metal 2014. Really creative,
You ever give that a listen? I'm glad you brought that up.
Maybe when it first came out. I'll be honest with you, I don't remember it. So maybe that's a little homework assignment for tomorrow. I definitely remember re-listening to when they re-recorded Battle Hymns. But yeah, I'll have to give this one a listen with a more modern flair. Although Carl Logan's on it, so for that reason alone, I might just not listen to it at all. But
it's a story I don't want to touch. But listen, great scores across the board. Great choice. We will go back and do more of their material, I'm sure, and maybe even some of their albums that don't hit as high, because they released some stuff in the 2000s which not quite as good as this.
I have to say, I'm very curious because there is a Crown in the Ring metal version on this record, so I'm gonna have to check that out for sure. Yeah, there's some cool stuff on here, it looks like. And it looks like Pleasure Slave was mercifully left off. So
that's really funny.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's Manowar, so you get the good with the bad, but solid release for sure. Glad you picked it. Before we get to my pick for next week, some housekeeping. Just want to thank all of our Patreon members. Obviously, we appreciate all of you. Spread the word about the show. Tell a friend if you think they would like what we do here. We are obviously 300 plus episodes in and not going anywhere. So give us a like and a follow. Spread the word. We appreciate all of you. Some news items for next week. Anthrax has announced their new album. It's going to be coming out in September. A new single coming out in May. So new music from the Kings of Thrash. As I mentioned, saw them on 70K. They were really, really great. Looking forward to new music from them. And going to Sweden, In Flames has just announced the completion of their 15th studio album. So that is something else to look forward to later this year. Unbelievable that they have 15 albums to their credit. That is a lot of albums. And needless to say, we've got to cover more of those as well. Before I conclude, any other news that you want to add, or shall I talk about next week?
I think I am good. I'm trying to think just real quickly if anything happened, and I can't think of anything. So I do want to say, though, thanks to everyone who has been contributing to the discussions in the Metal Exchange's Facebook group. I've been trying to post some more just like, of the day type news and clips and whatever, and then keeping our usual content on the on the main page. So thanks to everybody who's been kind of gravitating towards there and chiming in on things, or even just liking. It's much appreciated. And I just think it's, makes for interesting discussion to keep things, current. And if I see anything from a band I think, is of interest to our group, I will try to post it there and, see what everyone has to say about it. So keep it up, and thanks everybody for doing that.
Very nice, very nice. As we forge ahead here, before March comes to a close, I want to cover an album that is celebrating its 20-year reunion in April of 2006, or next month, obviously, celebrating 20 years. I'm going to do something a little bit different and something we've never done on the podcast, and I'm going to tell you my score before I even tell you the album, and it is a 10. It is one of my favorite albums of all time, right up there with Operation Mindcrime, although it sounds absolutely nothing like Operation Mindcrime. And I have wanted to do this for an anniversary episode for the podcast. Maybe it was episode 100 or 200, and I decided not to. Then I kind of looked at when it came out, and I want to tell how I got the album, and there's stories about seeing this band live and whatnot. But this is an album which I will mention, but I'm asking you to do me a favor, because this is a very dense album. It is an album that is going to require probably a half dozen listens, because I've listened to this album maybe more than any other album in my collection, because I still hear new things every time I listen to it. And that is because of the way it's produced and because of just the sonically hearing different things every time. So I encourage you, get a pair of headphones, listen on speakers, listen in the car, but just give ample time to this, because every time you hear it, you're going to hear something different. And I'm talking about the debut album, maybe the best debut album of all time for my money, The Dark Third by Pure Reason Revolution. We've never covered this, and it is a fascinating journey if you like Pink Floyd and progressive rock. I will say that. This is not a metal album per se, but it is metal adjacent and is definitely progressive. So we finally cover Pure Reason Revolution on the podcast. They are playing live in Montreal in just a few short months. I'm going to make every effort to go see them again, because it has been almost more than 15 years since I saw them live, and I'm long overdue. So that's what I want to cover next week. We'll talk about how there's multiple versions of the album. We'll talk about offline which version I want you to listen to. But needless to say, that is what we're doing next week on the podcast.
Very cool. This is an album I have not, according to my iTunes, listened to from start to finish in 15 years. So,
like I said, you're going to need a little bit of time. But I think there's parts of this you might like. Parts of it you may say is samey. I don't know. I assure you, you're not giving it my score. But curious to see what you think of it when you do a deep dive on this thing.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. I know there's one song on this album that I really, really like a lot, and then a bunch of other songs.
Which one that is? Because
I'm surprised you don't know. But I will save that for the episode.
Nice. Well, enjoy the rest of your week. We'll come back with some British prog rock next week, and then we will go forge ahead with another band in the beginning of April that we have not covered, but probably are long overdue for, although I think our opinions may differ on that one as well without having given it a listen yet. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But enjoy the week.
My next choice after that is the one that I alluded to earlier. So
nice.
That's one I've been looking forward to talking about for a while. And like I mentioned, I'm pretty much booked through mid-July with my episodes. So looking forward to carrying on. No pun intended with Manowar on the brain, but yeah, a lot of. I have a lot of just like obvious albums that I think a lot of people would be like, "How have we not talked about them yet?" But it's because it's a lot of friggin' albums, and we only do this once a week. So
there you go. I totally understood, but lots to be excited about. But we'll get to all that and more in the coming weeks and months ahead. But other than that, enjoy the week, my friend, and I will catch up with you soon.
All right, take care, buddy.